Shalom. First and foremost, I want to begin by giving all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rachakodash. Double honors to the elders and to the apostles of the millstone, and enough respect to the brothers out there pushing and spreading the gospel of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai to the four corners of the world. Now, through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, I wanted to do a quick lesson on this article, which is entitled U.S. Signs Deal with Saudi Arabia that could allow kingdom to enrich nuclear fuel. And as we go through this title, Lord willing, this be edifying. Now, prior to that, I did a video on this article. I forgot what the title was, but right. And the previous video that I made was about an article that talked about Trump seeking Congress approval for giving Saudi Arabia nuclear energy. But this article just straight away tells us that they've already done that, right? He has got the approval, and they're going to go ahead and give them enriched nuclear fuel and, the technology required to make use of these enriched uranium. So reading the article, it says President Donald Trump has approved a nuclear deal with Saudi Arabia that could lead to the kingdom enriching its own fuel for civilian reactors without adapting the gold standard of international oversight, according to two U.S. officials and a source familiar with the matter. Now, last time I made a video and I talked about how, Esau's not very bright and that he's pretty much given weapons that would later be used on him. But this video, while that's true, I also want to highlight that from the perspective of man, the plan that they have taken is that they were gonna, because they're having sort of like a nuclear warfare with, I guess, a secondary Cold War with Iran. What they're trying to do is they're trying to put a nuclear-capable neighbor right next to Iran, and when that happens, maybe it'll deter Iran from any ambitions of being powerful. So that's pretty much what's going on here. Now, again, like I said in the previous one, they've done this before. The same thing with Russia. When Russia was developing its nuclear missiles, when they stole plans and they were developing their own kind of missiles, America did the same thing. They tried to deter them from trying to build it, and then they set up NATO, and they gave all these NATO nations nuclear weapons, and they put them right on Russia's doorstep. And Russia counteracted that. They countered by having Cuba and these South American nations. They made an ally of them, and then they gave them missiles and even put their own nuclear missiles right on America's doorstep. And America did not like that. And so you see how the things that have been done in the past, just like Solomon said, is the same thing that's being done in these latter days, right? But the difference between what has happened in the past and what's going to happen here is that this time, the destruction that comes from the reckless, management of the earth will come by way of what? Thermonuclear missiles. And the destruction is going to be so great that it will leave all the kingdoms of the world completely broken and just incapable of doing anything else other than submitting themselves to the power of the Lord. So let's just read the article. This video isn't going to be very long. The Department of Energy announced the agreement's signature on Wednesday afternoon. It will next go to Congress after a mandatory review period. The deal, known as the 123 Agreement, would last 30 years, according to one U.S. official, who added that it would involve American companies providing technology and expertise to develop the Saudi program. Any agreement to give Saudi Arabia access to nuclear energy could prove controversial both domestically and within the wider Middle Eastern region, since the ability to enrich nuclear fuel could, in theory, eventually lead to the creation of nuclear weapons. Psalms, the second chapter. They know where all this is going to end up. They know that it's inevitable that somebody is going to shoot up these nuclear missiles, which will cause another person to shoot it in response, and then another person, and then another person, and then another person. They know it. They feel it in your bones. They can't see any other possible future. But because they're stubborn and prideful, they're prying, looking for ways, thinking that they can break themselves from the destiny, the chains that the Lord has had them in. The scripture says that it's just funny to the Lord. It's child's play. Their ambitions is nothing but just the wishes of a child to the Lord. The Energy Secretary Chris Wright, in a statement accompanying the signature announcement, argued that the agreement uphold the highest standards of nuclear safety and non-proliferation. So they say, right? That's what the same thing they said about Iran. They thought that they had things in place to where they could not develop nuclear missiles, but now look at them. They are working on it right now. CNN previously reported that the administration let the deal languish for months over concerns about the Iran war and the potential for congressional disapproval. Before uranium enrichment could begin, a joint U.S.-Saudi team would explore whether it is warranted and commercially viable, and Americans would build a facility without transferring the sensitive technology to Saudi Arabia. Of course, this ain't gonna work, right? It's not gonna work. You've had countries steal America's valuable technology, which is the nuclear technology, from other countries while it was in America, when it was protected in America. Now, how much more when you bring that same technology into another world? Look at China. How many things have they stolen from America? And they've done all that while the companies are in America. Elon Musk went over to China. I think, he went over to China trying to set up Tesla. And then before you know it, bro, within that year, other companies started using the same software he uses. Started creating their own, electric vehicles. And then he had to get the hell up out of there. The agreement includes limits on what inspections might be carried out on the Saudi program, according to the officials and sources, which may draw skepticism from lawmakers. The kingdom is notably not required to sign a standard agreement called the Additional Protocol with the International Atomic Energy Agency, like the United Arab Emirates did in 2009 when it signed a gold standard nuclear cooperation deal with the U.S., an official said. The Saudis long balked at signing the protocol over concerns that they could theoretically allow inspectors to enter the holy city of Mecca or royal palaces. So the reason the Saudi Arabia really they don't sign the non-proliferation agreement, which the non-proliferation agreement is kind of like an agreement that some nations have signed, vowing that they will never develop nuclear missiles, right, or anything close to its destructive power. So this is what they wanted Saudi Arabia to sign. But when you sign these things, you are subject to inspections, unannounced inspections. And the inspections, they can go anywhere in the country that they want. But because Saudi Arabia, they have that holy land over there, Mecca, right, in the royal palaces, they say they ain't signing anything like that. And yet America is bringing these things to them. So that's why it says the kingdom is notably not required to sign a standard agreement, because they think that they're gonna build these things and have American workers, deal with the nuclear power plant. But we know Ishmael. Scripture says that he is a wild man. Remembering his nature, some shit you just know some shit is gonna happen. They're gonna kick all these people out, probably hold them. It's some crazy shit. It's gonna happen. There's gonna be a conflict between them and America. They're gonna kick the people out, and then they're gonna seize the factory, and then they're gonna take the knowledge for themselves. The deal instead includes a bilateral safeguard agreement that resembles the model protocol, but lacks the portion that offended Riyadh, a U.S. official told CNN. Let's jump down to. Yep, the Energy Department announcement said the agreement marked the beginning of a decades-long multi-billion-dollar partnership, and argued that the accord will create high-paying U.S. jobs and long-term economic growths. All right, so yeah. That's why the scripture says the love of money, man, is the root of all evil, and it's not just evil like you have to commit evil, but in other words, like evil, like you're gonna bring evil upon yourself. That's what this whole thing is about. The position that Babylon has put themselves in is because of greed. Because they want to make money here, they will topple government. They want to make money here, they do espionage missions. They want to make money here, they invade lands, they bomb, and then the treachery, and then hypocrisy. It's all because they want to make money. So they've made themselves at war with everybody. The love of money causes them to commit evil, but then because of the love they have for money, evil will pursue them. Because you're going to put yourself in situations where you make enemies. Right? You burn bridges, and then eventually you're by yourself in this world, and only evil is pursuing you. Dan Joyner, a nuclear regulatory consultant and law professor at the University of Alabama, told CNN that the agreement will open the door for American and allied companies to sell reactors, components, fuel services, training, and technical assistance with government export approval. And this is what it's all about. When Trump got into office, he just wants to boost the business of his friends. That's all it is. It's a scam to him. He's a scam. He's a scam artist. Everyone he's made business with will tell you he's not an upstanding man. And so when he does all these things, he will help his friends, himself and his friends. That's why when he got into office, immediately he got all this freaking money. They use insider knowledge, they manipulate the stock market, they buy low and they sell high, and then when it's high, they'll crash the shit, and then they'll buy. They're just a bunch of, thieves and con artists toying with the people at the expense of human lives and the well-being of the common man. Families can't afford to feed each other, but he doesn't care. The deal codes strategically, and this is how they word it. They word it as, you're going to get jobs. But hey, when you get the jobs, it's like, who benefit most from these things? It's these, you can create job any other way. But they frame it that way. We're creating jobs. But really, the bulk of that whole money, the money that's generated by the actual workers, it goes to them. That's why you have the 1% of the world that owns 99% of the entire world's money. They own it all. And then they'll tell you, no, we're trying to give you something, but it's just chicken feed. And they fool people. It's like when a military recruiter comes to your high school, and he starts talking about, all the many places that he's traveled. And but bro, you're behind the wire. It's not like you go travel and you're still in a freaking resort. You're on a goddamn base, dog. I mean, they'll tell you all the things that the military can provide you, but you go in there, and it's not exactly how they phrase it. They make you feel like they will treat you right. They're gonna treat you like a king. You get in there, and it's not at all what is. No one in there is happy, man. But you go in there, you think they'll tell you too, you go in there, you're fighting for truth and justice, but you're fighting for a bunch of human traffickers, child molesters, and just hypocrites, thieves, liars. Those are the people you're fighting to stay in power. Job 9:24, man. The earth is given into the hands of the wicked. And you still got people out here talking about they fighting for truth and justice. Who's truth and justice? People who make the laws ain't even following the laws. They change the law. They twist it. They make it vague. They don't put effort into it. And people suffer. The common man suffers from it. And if they finally, they finally get caught breaking the law, then they just buy themselves out of it. In fact, they don't even buy themselves out of it. They don't give you any response. Look at the whole thing with the Epstein file. They don't tell you anything. They release the victims, embarrass the victims. They release their names, the ones that didn't want to be, and then they cover the names of the people. Yo. But people still love this world. Jake especially. Can't let this fucking world go. Consider all the wickedness that's done in it, and Jake will still prefer this world over the kingdom of heaven. Iran, Saudi Arabia's main rival in the region, has a stockpile of enriched uranium and has vowed to cling to its nuclear program even after months of U.S. bombardments, claiming the program is for civilian purposes, right? Uranium enrichment and plutonium processing are the two main pathways to create the core materials necessary to build nuclear weapons. And this is what Babylon does. They will frame you, right, to be this kind of like, this evil, monstrous government, which is true, but they frame it as though that they are the good guys that are coming in to put things to righteousness, which is not true. That's just false. In fact, when you really look into it, they are the cause of all the things that are going on in the Middle East. Esau is the cause of all that. And all the people that he's been bullying and harassing, when they got their nuclear missiles, they said it. They said, hold on, if these people get it, they're going to shoot it. Everybody got it, and everyone was responsible with it. There's only one person in this world that's actually used a nuclear weapon. And you guessed it, it's America. So they paint this narrative because they don't want you to create your own advantage and protect yourself from the bullying of America. That's what it's all about. They want to bully people, and then they want to be loved for it. Right? You read the book of Maccabees, it tells you Esau's nature. They do all this, and you read the 7 brothers from the book of from the book of Maccabees. He killed his own brothers, and then he turns around and says, "Well, I'll declare you friend of the king." Look at that. What kind of stupid ass offer is that? You're gonna give me money and declare me friends? Man just murdered my whole brothers. That's Esau. He's a madman. Scripture says that he's brutish. He doesn't think. He doesn't even think that people think. He's not aware that people hold grudges. He's not aware that people, yo, you talk about his wickedness, you're gonna be here all day. Now, let's just get to the prophecies. But yeah, the point here is that yeah, he's going ahead and doing it. He's gonna give them nuclear, enriched nuclear technology, and which will make them capable of creating nuclear weapons. Look at how he's looking at it, bro. Yeah, he's looking at him, bro. He's just same people that are chanting death to A, right? They've been chanting that shit ever since. You think they're your friends? What he's been doing, the scripture says that it says what reward her even as she has rewarded you. See, Esau rewards him what? Deception, and they will reward him with deception. And it's gonna blow his fucking mind. That's what happens to Esau. He does something, and then when there's repercussions to his actions, he's trying to figure out, well, how can this be possible? Make his head spin. They'll do something, and then when you hate them for doing the things that killed millions of people, they'll say, how is this possible? You guys are racist. It's a whole bunch of shit. They'll vote this man in, one of the elites, one of them, and then say, no, he's going to fight for the small man. When has this guy ever fought for the small man? His reputation is that he's a con artist. He's defrauded the common man time and time again. But the foolish people, Edomites out here thinking that he's their hero. But he comes in there and he says, I'm going to release the Epstein files, but he does not. And people are trying to figure out, well, how is that? What do you mean? That's why the Lord said you can't teach them righteousness. They are insane, dog. They are insane. Their brains ain't. The book of Habakkuk says that his soul, which is in him, is not upright. Their downfall is really going to mess them up, man, mentally. And they're going to be ashamed. And the scripture says they're going to be brought down to the size of the pit. In other words, they're going to be living in pits, literally and metaphorically. So, in closing, I'm going to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushua, Bahashem Racha Kodash. Until next time.